are very happy to invite or to welcome all of you today for the launch of a very special book, Spectrum Grab, the inside story of the 2G scam. It's a book which has been waiting to be written, and we are very happy that we have published a very compelling account of this scam, which has captured the imagination of the entire nation, if I may say so. Our author, Bhupesh Bhandari, very well-known journalist and associate editor with the Business Standard, has been an insider almost ever since the scam has broken. So he's put together a very compelling book with all the inside stories that all of us would like to know. Bhupesh, can I please have you on stage, please? We also have a very special guest this evening to launch this book. She wears many different hats in the same way. She does many other things. She's a fashion designer, a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, as well as a social activist. And she has been very vocal about her views on this subject of the 2G scam and how it has impacted the country. China has used her immense goodwill that she has generated as a fashionista to basically put under the spotlight issues that concern all Indians. China, it's an honor to have you with us this evening. Can you please join us? I'll start off straight away with a question which probably everybody would ask, has been asking. Is India becoming a country of scams? Bhupesh, China, can we have your views, please? Would you like to start?
Let me start by saying this is a very low profile journalist, but I think you've got a lot of fodder considering today Ajit Pawar has just resigned as the Deputy CM. So that is another scam which I hope you will be writing about, the irrigation scam.
Well, we didn't time it that way, but it's happened. So it's given a context for this book launch. And if you look at what has been happening, and you'll find the details in the book, that the old policy is giving way to a new policy. Earlier there were scarce resources meant for the public good. Now there's a debate happening that should we use these scarce resources to help the government fill its coffers. So there's a mindset change happening. So that is why these scams are coming out, and we have seen unscrupulous people, who are using this scarce resource which is being sold cheap for public good. They're buying it cheap and selling it expensive. So in a way, yes, it is scam season. The grave similarities between the telecom scam and the coal scam. So yes, I think we could say this is telecom season.
Since it is telecom season scam, can we unveil the book? China, please, would you do the honors?
Yeah, but there are lots more questions for you.
Sure.
Tell us what prompted you to sort of write this book, apart from the obvious reason that it is one of the biggest scandals that have broken out in recent times.
Well, what prompted me to look at this subject for a book was that before the coal scam, this was the mother of all scams. If you look at the Bofors scam, which was like a baby scam, where the alleged payoff is 64 crores. So compared to what's happened here, it was like a baby scam. So the sheer magnitude of what happened, and then that was one aspect. The other aspect was that how some people have twisted policy for personal gains. That was another thing which really struck me. And as I investigated the matter, and as I went through records, and as I went through correspondence, then it it was a whole different world that got opened up. You know, I would say it's difficult to believe that people can stoop to such levels and tell such lies and do such things. So it's all there in the book. We've tried to document it, what really went on behind the scenes, what was the various players involved in the whole drama, what all they did. So as one started digging into it, the trigger was of course the size of the scam, but as one started digging into it, so new and new facets came up, and it was disgusting at one level, but also interesting at one level, and you know, how policy is twisted, how loopholes are this thing, and how coalition politics, or the compulsions of coalition politics, weak leadership at times. So the various facets came out, and it became more and more interesting.
I have a couple of questions for you, maybe many. First, did Raja do this alone?
Well, that's an interesting question. I remember what Raja said in the court. His quote was, "यहाँ कोई दूध का धुला हुआ नहीं है," which really means that there's nobody with a squeaky clean image out here. And his argument is that these decisions were taken by the cabinet, and there are enough checks and balances in our system to stop an errant minister. So if it was a policy, it was the policy of the government, not of an individual. That is Raja's side. But there is enough evidence that there were people within the government who tried to stop him. The finance ministry, especially Mr. Subbarao, I have seen correspondence, serious efforts made by him to stop the telecom ministry from going for auction at 2001 prices. But all opposition was steamrolled. So there are various sides to it.
But why do you think the Prime Minister originally thought of the auction and then suddenly there was pin drop silence? Do you think that there was, as we all doubt, somebody else calling the shots?
Well, see, it is a natural outcome of coalition politics. I'll give you a small example that at one time there was a group of ministers formed, and the terms of reference were very clear that we have to look at spectrum pricing because the telecom scenario had changed beyond recognition. And then all of a sudden we find that the minister said that spectrum pricing falls within the routine work of the telecom ministry, and you cannot, this is like interference. And next we find that the terms of reference of the group of ministers have changed.
Yeah.
So obviously, and within no time, so obviously there was pressure on the Prime Minister's office, and that he yielded to the pressure shows that he was, these are the compulsions of coalition politics.
And do you think it's a repeat with the coal scam as well?
Yeah, like I said earlier, there are grave similarities between the two scams. First of all, again, like Spectrum, coal was supposed to be for the public good, so it was okay to underprice it. And then again, we find that there were people in the coal scam, like in the telecoms, people within the system who were concerned about it and made various attempts to stop it. But and again, we find the role of the PMO was ambiguous, and he let himself be guided by the viewpoint and opinion of others. So these are some similarities that I find between the two scams.
I have a question for you, Shayana. As a politician and representative of Young India, how do you read the growing anger against politicians? Because I think everybody is being tainted with the same brush. So how do you respond to this, that there is a generalized mistrust towards politicians as a whole? I mean, they're not a community which is respected. How do you deal with that?
But it's completely our own doing. So it's not something that takes anyone by shock. But having said that, I think you can lead by example. If you choose not to be a part of this coalition tug of war, if you choose to voice your opinion as a legitimate voice of dissent, even within a political party, I think there's a huge ray of hope in India. So to sit here and think that everyone's a Raja or a Chidambaram, trust me, there are lots who are not. I have one question for you which has been coming to my mind over and over again. They said price at which it was sold was 1/10 the market price, and then the foreign companies that bought it for almost 8 times that price.
Yeah.
So the larger question in 2G is, where has all this money gone, and is the nation ever going to get it back?
Well, if you look at it, the spectrum was sold at a certain price, and within no time, the companies that had got the spectrum sold it at 7, 8, 9 times. And at that time, those companies had no other asset but the spectrum. So the spectrum was all the asset they had. So the difference in the valuation shows to the extent the money was, the spectrum was underpriced. And the money which ought to have gone to the government has gone to the companies. That's there. The government has incurred a loss. There can be no two views on it.
So why don't you tell us what exactly do you try to achieve through this book? Do you raise more questions about governance in India, or do you sort of have solutions, answers, that what we need to do in terms of the policy space, in terms of regulation, in terms of how natural resources are allocated? What does your book answer any of these questions?
Yeah, actually it does. See, there is a policy framework. Like I said, policies also determined by the popular mindset at that time. So now the stage has come when scarce resources cannot be sold cheap. So that's the central message. And for telecom in particular, it's again very strange. When the CAG was talking of huge losses, spectrum being underpriced, none of the telecom operators said, they all said, yes, there's a scam happening. But now when the spectrum is being priced in a certain way, the same telecom companies are saying, no, it's overpriced. So it has to be somewhere in between. The truth, I think, lies somewhere in between the two.
So auction is not the clear answer. Is that what you're saying?
Auction is the right way, but we have to
Supported by policy.
supported by policy and arrive at see, telecom is a huge thing in India. It's added to our GDP. It's enabled. It has empowered people. The kind of empowerment it has brought about in rural areas is very serious. So this is a story that cannot be jettisoned, or this is a story that cannot be allowed to die down. So it has to be adequately priced, rightly priced.
China is 2G, just the tip of the iceberg. As you know, I'm a member of the opposition party. How do you see this? Do you see more scams coming out? Do you see the CAG coming out with some more of these coal gates and other gates coming out?
How many of us know how much is 1,76,000 crores? And to think that the coal scam is even bigger than that. Then we have the irrigation scam here in Maharashtra. Scam after scam, I think that crores now seems to be the way we would earlier talk about thousands. So I think he's got a lot of opportunity for a sequel of books, this being the first. Maybe the next would be Maharashtra specific, and then the coal scam, of course. But having said that, I think that the only ray of hope is in the judiciary. Because 2G is a clear-cut example where you had each corporate going there with 20 lawyers. I think that poor trial judge must have been completely in shock to see this kind of presentation by all of them. But it also goes to show you that white-collar crimes are as big a scam as that of any political party.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how do we get us out of this mess? How do we get out of this kind of a messy situation so there's no repeat of it? No, from a political point of view, how do you
I
see
think-
people governing the country?
I think better policy for sure. And here in this case, when you did have the option of an auction, why are you using your discretionary power to just give it to all and sundry as what has happened even in the coal scam? So I think these are questions that the politicians have to answer irrespective of which party they belong to. And in the expose, if it exploits and exposes people of the opposition or in the ruling party, I don't think that should be any kind of it should not be a reason to stop on the investigation at all. The first time in the history of India you have the Attorney General also in question.
Bhupesh, what are the most worrisome aspects of this scam that you see?
Crony capitalism, undoubtedly. The whole nexus between businessmen who are ready to use loopholes in the official processes and to use that for personal good. So that emerges as the biggest threat to the country, undoubtedly, crony capitalism. And we have seen it in scam after scam.
Do you also see that earlier politicians were not into business, but now increasingly you see them seeking to become businessmen themselves or owning stakes in companies themselves? Do you think that's also an issue? Where our politicians have become more ambitious?
Well, I think it cuts both ways. So if you are in business, then you're obviously alive to what business needs or what business wants from the governance and how a business is run. You are not anti-business in that sense, but there is also evidence of businessmen, politicians, using their dual role to their advantage. So it cuts both ways.
And also about the role of the media and how the tapes were leaked.
Yeah, media of course has had a great role to play, and the good thing about the
Has media had a bigger role of the lobbyist?
well, it's very difficult to say. That if you read all the media reports, there has been some pioneering investigation as well, and of course, the lobbyists, they try to give their own spin, use the media, but in my research for this book, I did come across some pioneering investigation which is worthy across publications.
Any questions from the audience?
I have one last question.
Sure.
How much do you think is the contribution of Subramaniam Swamy?
Subramaniam Swamy was amongst the first to voice his concern on the whole underpricing of 2G spectrum. So in that sense, his contribution to this whole thing is immense. And he has done a lot of research, he has done a lot of digging up. And his role in the cancellation of the spectrum, the Supreme Court verdict, it cannot be undermined. It cannot be underestimated. I think he's done a great job.
And do you think Chidambaram will go?
Well, he seems to be.
Today I'm the journalist, you're the politician.
No, I don't think if you look at the Supreme Court verdict, and the JPC also has so far not found anything on him. And from what I understand in the last few weeks, he's just gaining from strength to strength. So that answer would have to be in the negative.
So we talk about scams and we talk about all, government and private companies being separate entities, but then there has to be a partnership that has to be created. So how do you propose that would happen, and how do you propose that a 2G scam wouldn't happen, but consumers and the country would still get the benefits of telecom?
Well, this opaque system of allocating scarce resources, and I'm not just talking of telecom spectrum, that needs to end with a transparent auctioning system. We can debate endlessly that what should be the base price at which you auction. But one should always see, had the security scam not happened, maybe we wouldn't have had a transparent market. So hopefully these scams will give us a lesson and improve our processes and systems of allocating or giving out natural resources to private companies for national production, exports, whatever. So transparency is the key. And there are various models of various countries have experimented with transparency. Many of them have done so successfully. So there's no reason why we can't do that. We need to bring about transparency in handing out natural resources.
Do we have any further questions? No. Okay. On behalf of BS Books, I would like to thank everybody here for joining us in this what I consider a very lively discussion. Thank you, Shaina. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Bhupesh. For all those who would like to buy a signed copy of the book by the author, Bhupesh is available here. So please do pick up your copies.
Start with mine. For free. But it's not a scam.